If we have a number of these wheels on our office chair and they have threads and hair and fibers wrapped around these axle shafts, eventually they get to where they don't turn very freely. And you can go in here with a pair of pliers, dental tools, an X-Acto blade, and you can keep trying to cut that out of there. And for 5 sets of wheels on one chair, you can work on that for most of a day and you still won't have all of those hairs and fibers out of there. I don't have that type of patience. If you do not want to spend the money to upgrade to the larger diameter, smooth turning rollerblade type wheels, I'll show you how to knock these apart and clean them up. Using a scrap piece of 2x4, I drilled a 1 15/16 inch diameter hole deep enough to accept one of these wheels. To go down inside this pocket, this 2x4 will support this part of the frame of the wheel. I took another piece of scrap wood and a couple of angle blocks to go under the wheel and support it on this side. Now I want to find the center of that wheel. Using a scrap piece of plywood, I drilled a 1 15/16 inch pocket. Then drilled the center out for a 3/16 bit. I put that on top of that wheel, 3/16 inch bit. And I drill the wheel out. And I do that to all of the wheels, drilling the hole on one wheel on one side. The axle shaft is tight in the center support of the wheel. And it's pushed into these wheels, and there's a little bit of a socket about 2/3 of the way through. We need to take a pin punch, stick it in here, and drive that axle shaft through that supporting block while this wheel is going into this pocket. We need to drive that in far enough to where that shaft disengages from this wheel. These are really only made to go together one time. You can take them apart and put them together once, maybe twice, and it should be okay. But to try and add a little life to that plastic, I want to heat this up in boiling water first, just to soften that plastic, make that drive out of there a little easier. I boiled these in hot water. Shake that water out of there, dry it off just a little bit. Put that wood block under there. I want to do this before it gets a chance to cool off too much. And drive that wheel out of there. The wood is swelling up a little bit. I tried driving one of these apart dry, and I thought this might work a little better. That hole in there could be a little bit bigger. You can see it's got hair all the way in here. Try to get it 100% clean. X-Acto blade works pretty well. Now it's just a matter of getting this hair and thread off of this shaft. A lot easier when that wheel's gone. I played around with a couple of these yesterday, digging some of this hair out with a couple of dental picks and a pair of needle nose. I got tired of that pretty quick. Almost as much fun as cleaning up somebody else's vacuum cleaner. We're going to take this and our block, tap that wheel down until it just touches that wood block. You can see how smooth that turns. And then I just take this, put it on there. Beat it back together. It turns pretty well. All of these have had a hole drilled in one side. The hot water made this a lot easier to come apart than when I took the first one apart dry. Plus the water helps lubricate that a little bit coming apart. It's much easier to clean these up, drive them back together. The center of the wheels on that axle shaft, I would not put any oil on that. How long will it last? I don't know. They certainly turn free now, and they'll last for a while. One of the problems with these is they go up into the plastic base in the chair. This little split ring is in there, and its job is just to keep this from falling out if you pick the chair up. There's no bearing on this. This shaft is just turning inside this plastic block. You can see it. Each one of these has been turning inside the plastic base of the chair. That's what these rub marks are. Ultimately, that's just wearing the hole in the chair base larger, and eventually there'll be a failure there. One advantage of the larger rollerblade wheels is that this section has a ball bearing race that this can turn on quite freely, and it's got a ball bearing race on either side of that wheel, and it's not likely to get a bunch of hair and fibers net wrapped around the axle shaft. So there you have it. You can knock those apart and clean them up, put them back together again. They'll be good for a while.